Apparently, there has been a massive sell-off in Chinese technology stocks. It's been accelerating today, and I think that it is obviously in relation to all of the crackdowns on big tech in China. There's also been big crypto crackdowns. So we're going to dive into all of that. So the Hang Seng Tech Index in Hong Kong, which includes stocks such as Tencent Holdings and Alibaba Group, apparently it tumbled 8%. And this is its third day in declines. And also the Hang Seng Index dropped 4.2%. So these are big tumbles there. Obviously, the government has been on a rampage to rein in big tech. They're using all these reasons such as data security and monopolistic behavior and financial stability. Honestly, I mean, I'm going to keep saying that. I think it's all about control here and really clamping down and letting these companies know that they're under the thumb of the CCP. Now, they're using lots of nice words to kind of couch it in different terms, but it really does seem that they're trying to get the best of both worlds. You know, they're saying, oh, you private companies go and create wealth, but at the same time, you know, you're going to be under our thumb and don't forget that we will control you. Obviously, the market is not reacting well to this and saying, well, you can't really have both. You can't really have the freedom to allow these companies to grow and give the investors confidence to know that there's going to be a good regulatory future for them. And then at the same time, like, keep them all controlled and under your thumb. And so we're kind of seeing that play out in the stock market right now. So let's dive into that, and then we'll talk about the crypto angle of this. But Ben, what was your take on this big decline in Chinese stock for tech companies?
Yeah, I think it does like snowball a little bit too in some ways. There was some chatter during this going on that like, you know, signups to WeChat had been halted. That turned out not to be true, but it's like, you know, all these things are just kind of being escalated in a lot of different ways. And I think the FUD that comes out of it is just as important as the actual sell-offs in terms of what companies are thinking with, you know, if they want to launch there, what this might mean for further growth down the line if you're a startup. And obviously what this means in terms of, you know, security, data privacy, and just privacy writ large. And we're looking at the ways that all the tech is involved here. I think that the crypto angle is interesting to me. It seems like, you know, Huobi is winding down their sort of shell company aspect that they had there, though there wasn't a whole lot of operations with it. Simultaneously, you have like OKCoin winding down their Beijing office. And so you're starting to see like, you know, not just miners starting to leave China in some ways, but you're seeing exchanges sort of bulk at some of the regulatory uncertainty or control that'll be exerted. So this is one that's going to continue to happen, but those were two sort of data points that I found interesting just in the sense of like, you know, at least in Huobi, it's like, we're not even going to try this down the line, right? There wasn't a whole lot of operations within this company, but, you know, it did give them the option if they really wanted to build that out. That's no longer the case.
For sure. So it's, I mean, it is really interesting looking at all these dynamics here. So Tencent briefly suspended new signups for its hugely popular messaging app WeChat. And so this has unsettled investors. There just seems to be a real lack of regulatory clarity there when you have a system where any day, you know, a company could be nationalized, or you could just be stopped from doing an IPO, or, you know, you could just have the company broken up, or, you know, there are all kinds of things going on there, and it really is unnerving people. And we've seen a lot of capital flight from China for this reason, but things have been seemingly going okay on the tech side and companies booming. But now maybe we are starting to see the pushback from the market with seeing this clamp down. But Jen, what's your take on all this?
Well, while I was reading these, I was wondering, are we going to see a big migration, I guess, when it comes to Chinese talent? We've seen the miners kind of migrate away from China looking for new homes. And are we going to see the tech talent kind of move out of China? And what kind of impact is that going to have on the industry there? And then when we were reading about Naspers, I thought, you know, this isn't just a China story for our audience. This is going to have a huge impact globally. You know, Tencent is their majority shareholder, is a South African company. And when we start to think about the impacts that this Chinese regulations are going to have for companies worldwide, I think we're in for an interesting next few months or year.
Sure. Will, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, so interesting that it's not only just tech stocks itself. I think we're kind of seeing like the fingers of the totalitarian regime there spread out for the first time in the last 10 years in a way we haven't seen before. There's a report out of CNN yesterday that they're also clamping down on education, the education sector in China, like the private market for education. And that market's actually pretty large because a lot of people do not want to go through like the public markets for educating your child or just like self-education. And so there is like a pretty large private market for that as well. And now the Chinese government is clamping down on that, and the stocks for those kind of companies also was going down yesterday too. So I think we're seeing it across the board on many fronts, not just tech, that the Chinese government is really starting to clamp down on a lot of different projects across the board. I'm curious if it's just because of where the CCP is in terms of the maturity of this current regime and under this president, or if it's just because of the coronavirus and last year, and if they're saying like, they're needing something to step on because of how tough the last few years have been. But Ben, I'm going to give it to you. I think we're going away from this topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also worth noting that, NATO and the U.S. condemned China recently for being behind a variety of different cyber attacks. So the more, control over the kind of cyber playing field that happens, I think we're going to see tech companies come under more and more scrutiny for potentially being maybe avenues for that in a variety of different ways. So that's just another side note for the geopolitical conflict that always reigns around cybersecurity.